Well, Jeffrey here again. We're going to be working on something a little different now for a day or so. And this is the beginning of a story of a special to the family 1968 Camaro convertible. My oldest brother bought it when I was approximately 2 years old, and he and his wife Carol used it for their family driver for the first few years they had it. I remember him telling me when they put the top down to bring the Christmas tree home in it. Anyway, sadly in 1988 we lost my brother, and Carol kept the car. About 10 years ago I acquired the car from her because I had a place to store it and kind of take care of it. And she had moved out to Colorado, so I had to go get the car home from Colorado, and one of my sisters and I flew out there and made a road trip on the way home with the car by way of Mount Rushmore. And by the time we got home, actually when we left already, the car had over 100,000 original miles on it, which for you old guys as old as me, the cars from the late 60s, a lot of them never made 100,000 miles. By the time they were 7, 8 years old, they were rusted to pieces, and by the time they had 100,000 miles, they were oil burners. But the car had over 100,000 on it, and when the oil would get hot, the oil light would come on at an idle. On the way home, came home from Colorado to Wisconsin by way of Mount Rushmore, made a nice road trip out of it. And because of the oil problem, I actually stopped at a Harley dealership and bought straight 60 weight oil to dump in it, and that helped some. And shortly, when I was coming home, as I was pulling in my driveway, about 50 feet from my driveway, the alternator seized up and the fan belt burned off. So that was a stroke of good luck, getting that far. But shortly after I was home with the car, it developed an engine knock. And at that time, I pulled the engine out and put a different 327 in it that I had. And now it's 10 years later or so, and it's time to get the car back to my niece and her family. So we're going to rebuild the original 327 and put it back in it. And today I'm pulling the heads off of it. It sat here on this skid in my shed for the last 10 years, and I'm going to start to tear it down to get it to go to the machine shop. So if you want, follow us on the journey with this. I've already pulled the push rods, loosened the rocker arms, pulled the push rods on this side, and broke a lot of the head bolts loose. So I'm going to get at taking this head off. I've already loosened the rocker arms, pulled the push rods on this side, and there's just a lot of sludge buildup in it on the push rods, under the valve covers. But like I say, it had over 100,000 miles on it, which doesn't sound like anything nowadays, but at that time, you know, in the late 60s, early 70s, 100,000 was a lot on a V8. The amount of sludge I'm just scraping out from under the rocker covers. So I can get pulling this first head off. I already had these cracked loose already. Let's see what it looks like under that head, because we know the history of the car. This thing has probably never been apart. Oh, that came off. Oh man, we got rust in the cylinders. I hate to say it, where I had it stored, it got some moisture in it. I mean, it's going to be bored oversized, so it isn't going to hurt anything. It's just going to be a case of getting the pistons out. That's my own fault, but that's the way it goes. Hopefully the other side won't be as bad. So we'll get at the other side. There's so much heavy sludge on the push rods. It scrapes off, pull them up through the guides and the heads. Now I'll take the second head off. Well, Ethan, do you wish you were here helping take this apart? Ethan and Andrew, they're brothers, and they're my brother's grandsons. And they're the ones who are going to be putting this back together in the beginning of June. I mean, so what I do here in the next day or two is all you'll probably see of this until June. Because that's when they're coming here, traveling here from Denver, or not from Denver, from Colorado, to put the car back together. Pull the existing 327 out of it that I put in, and put this one together and put it back in it where it belongs. So let's see what's under this head. If I can get it broke loose. Oh. This was just a base model, 2-barrel, 210 horse, 327. Oh. There, it's loose. Oh. This one's rusty underneath too. I mean, nothing that's going to hurt the block, but probably enough that I'm going to have to work on getting the pistons out of it. pretty good lip on the cylinders. Like I said, the engines were a lot quicker back then. So next step will be roll it over and take the oil pan off. Oh, don't worry, Ethan and Andrew, I'll have much better working conditions than this for you in June. It's just my forklift doesn't like the cold, and I don't really mind the cold, so I decided to take it apart right where it's sitting. There's the oil pan, and whoa! Look at that! Oh, is there? This is, yeah. Oh man! Look at the sludge. Look at the sludge. But I hope you can see this. The oil pickup, there's some moisture in there. It's frozen in place. I have to make sure you can see this. I have to make sure you can see this. No, now look at that. The oil pickup has fallen out of the oil pump. I've never seen that before. I've not had a lot of them apart, but I've probably had a half a dozen or so small block Chevys apart in my life. And I've never seen that. Huh. I mean, if there's enough oil in the pan, it'd still pick up oil, but there wouldn't be pre-screening it, which isn't much. But that could indicate why when I was running it, when it would get a little bit low on oil and the oil would get hot, that the oil pressure light would come on, because it wasn't picking up all the way from the bottom of the oil pan. I'll always find something interesting, and it'll be interesting to see. We should be able to see which rod was knocking when we get that far. So I'm going to keep at it. Next, I'll stand it on end and get the harmonic balancer, timing chain cover, and timing chain off of it.